Hello, animation students. Welcome to our online lessons in animation. And for this particular topic, we are going to discuss how to create a frame-by-frame animation in Adobe Animate. Now, there are certain commands that you need to execute for you to be able to create an animation, particularly a frame-by-frame animation in Adobe Animate. So first, we have this insert blank keyframe. Okay, and this is what a blank keyframe looks like right here, which you can find on your timeline. This is what a timeline looks like. Okay, so when you say insert blank keyframe, if you execute that command, it means that you want to create a new drawing. You want to create a new drawing. Okay, now so whenever you are creating a new drawing for your animation, you execute the insert blank keyframe command. And now we also have the insert keyframe command, the shortcut of which is F6. For the blank keyframe, insert blank keyframe, the shortcut of which is F7. That is what you normally do if you want to create a new drawing. Okay, so for insert blank keyframe, it's F7. Insert keyframe is F6. Now, insert keyframe is used when you want to duplicate the previous drawing. Okay, and the insert frame. This is what a frame looks like. Okay, so this is the blank keyframe. This is the keyframe, and these are the frames or the frame. Okay, so the shortcut of insert frame is F5. Now, this is a command used when you want to extend the exposure of a frame that may contain or may not contain a certain drawing. All right. So these are the commands you need to master, you need to be familiarized of in order for you to create a frame-by-frame animation. Now, there are other commands that you have to keep in mind, such as the clear keyframe and the remove frames. And these are their shortcuts. Okay, so how do we execute these? How do we uh, employ these commands? Okay, so in just a short while, we are going to demonstrate how. Now, this is what the timeline looks like. And this is a very essential tool in frame-by-frame animation. And as you can see, this is a timeline right here. It contains some numbers and some controls here. So actually, this one is a screenshot of this portion. So as we go on through this course, we are going to discuss that or demonstrate that one by one or gradually. All right, so I'm going to go here at a blank document. So, excuse me. So I want you to take notice of this area right here. This is the timeline, and this is the layers panel. Now, as you can see here at frame number 1 right here, this is what a blank keyframe looks like. Now, the reason that this is a blank keyframe is because we haven't drawn any object here at the canvas or at the stage. So wala pa kasi tayong dinodrawing dito sa canvas na to, kaya ganito ang itsura niya. So normally, if you open your Adobe Animate, ganito ang makikita mo. No, this is a blank keyframe. You always start with a blank keyframe. Now, if you draw something on the canvas, if you draw something, the appearance of the blank keyframe changes. And that's what you call a keyframe. All right? So, kapag keyframe, ibig sabihin may laman yung canvas natin. So, that means if it is a keyframe, that means there is a drawing on our canvas. So even if you erase that, for example, let's erase it, and then you just put some dot right there, it becomes a keyframe. And even if you draw outside the canvas, let's say you draw right here, that becomes a keyframe from blank keyframe. So when we go back here, This is how it looks like. So whenever the stage or the canvas has no objects in it, this is how our frame looks like. It's the blank keyframe. Now, whenever you draw something on the canvas or even outside the canvas, the timeline, the particular timeline, area of the timeline becomes a keyframe. All right. So I hope I'm making sense there. Okay, so let's create an animation. Let's just say that we're going to create a vine, some type of plant that is growing gradually. Okay, so by default, whenever you enter your Adobe Animate, you're going to start with the blank keyframe. So that's the default. Okay, so now I need to draw a rough background. So right here at layer number 1, I am going to double click on this and rename it as BG for background. And now I'm just gonna draw something right here. So I'm just gonna choose some color right here. So let's just say that this is a soil with some grass. So I'm not gonna make my drawing very nice. So hindi ko na pagagandahin yung drawing natin kasi para mabilis. No? So ayan. So for example, this is a background, a soil. All right. Okay, now at the middle of that soil, there is that beanstalk. There's a beanstalk that is growing. All right. So this is the background. Now I'm going to add another layer, and I'm gonna rename it as vine. All right. Now, of course, this animation may contain more than one frame, and so I have to estimate here in the timeline how to. I have to estimate here the timeline, the length of the animation, the potential length of the animation. So the layer containing the BG, and it's a keyframe, I'm going to extend it right here at, let's say, for example, frame 40. So what is the command that I'm going to use? It's going to be insert frame. All right, so going back, I am going to insert, right click, okay, right click on the timeline, and then right here it says insert frame, the shortcut of which is F5, or you can just simply press F5. So this is the long method, right click and insert frame. Now we have exposed our drawing. All right, we have exposed our drawing. Now before anything else, make sure that the auto keyframe right here, if you long press right here, please unselect the auto keyframe. Make sure that this is inactivated or deactivated, because it's gonna mess up your animation. All right, so we'll talk about it later as we go on through our course. But for this particular lesson, just make sure whenever you whenever you create your frame by frame animation, please deactivate the auto keyframe command by long pressing it, long press, and then uncheck the auto keyframe. All right. So that's how you do it. Okay. So now I'm going to select a different color for my background. I'm going to make it lighter gray so as not to interfere so much on my main animation. So, okay, I'm good with that. And since I'm not gonna work with my background for now, I'm going to padlock it. Going to padlock it right here. And now I'm gonna go back to my layer, which is the vine, because I'm going to animate a vine. Now, for the vine, I am going to use my brush tool. And probably I'm going to choose a darker color for my brush tool. Now, the brush tool is conducive for what? for rough sketching. Okay, so now we have a vine here. All right. And then since it is going to grow, we have to create a new drawing. So right here, somewhere right here, I am going to right click on the timeline and insert blank keyframe. Okay. And as you can see, this area right here, if you look at the mouse, this is a blank keyframe. And right here, this is a long keyframe right here. This is a keyframe and this is a blank keyframe. So going back to our previous slide, this is a keyframe right here. Okay, that's a keyframe right here. Okay, so again, this is the blank keyframe and this is the keyframe. And this is also a keyframe right here because that means the layer has a content. Okay, so now I'm gonna draw here at the blank keyframe. But first of all, before I draw, I have to activate my onion skin for me to be able to see the previous drawing. So I'm going to click on the onion skin right here and probably create a new vine that looks like this. And now what we have here at the timeline, what we have here at the timeline is two keyframes. So meron na tayong dalawang keyframes dyan, ano? Kasi meron tayong dalawang drawing, okay? Now, I'm going to press another, or rather, I'm going to right-click and insert blank keyframe, activate my onion skin, and probably grow like this. Deactivate my onion skin, so it looks like that. Now, what if we want to create a drawing between these two keyframes right here? What if we want to create a new drawing between these two keyframes? Okay, the method that I'm going to do is that I'm going to click right here and right click, insert blank keyframe or F7. Right click and adjust my onion skin to see the previous drawing and the next drawing. So right here, I'm going to put the in-between drawing right here. So as you can see, we're concentrating on the command called insert blank keyframe. We can add another in-between drawing right here in order to smoothen further the animation by pressing insert blank keyframe. So the reason why we are inserting blank keyframe is because we're creating a new drawing. So that's how the frame-by-frame animation works. So we have this. Okay. So so that's a simple frame-by-frame animation using the F7 command or the insert blank keyframe command. Okay. So we can add another here. Insert blank keyframe, activate the onion skin for you to see the previous and the next drawing. So what happens is we are able to smoothen the animation. Okay. But what about, okay, so we've been doing insert blank keyframe, right? We've been doing insert blank keyframe. So what about insert keyframe? Okay, what about insert keyframe? Okay, so here's what an insert keyframe command does. So for example, in this part of the timeline, I right click. I press the right click of my mouse, and then instead of insert blank keyframe, I select insert keyframe. Okay, so what happened? So what happens is that the command basically duplicated the previous drawing, the last frame before this one. it duplicated. It duplicated the previous frame. Okay. Now we use F6 or insert keyframe if there is a minimal change on our drawing. So let's just say that right here, there's another vine or a branch that will grow like this. There you go. Then another F6 right here. Let's say, for example, right click, insert keyframe or F6. So it basically duplicated the previous drawing. So probably there's going to be another vine right here. So we use F6 for minimal changes only. Okay, so here's how it looks like. All right. So, right. So that's how you create a simple frame by frame animation. Okay. So let's just say that another F6 is employed here or insert keyframe. Insert keyframe. So it duplicated again the previous drawing. So I'm going to activate my onion skin. Probably make some changes right here. Minimal changes. But you know what? When you do your frame by frame animation, if your approach to animation is purely frame by frame, you will hardly use F6 or insert keyframe. Instead, you're going to use extensively the insert blank keyframe command. So hindi mo masyadong gagamitin yung F6 o yung insert keyframe. Ang madalas mong gagamitin kapag frame by frame yung approach mo ay yung insert blank keyframe. Okay? So dito sa animation na to, here in this exercise, I am showing you the difference between the function of insert blank keyframe or F7 and the insert keyframe command or F6. Ayan, ganyan siya, no? So right here, biglang nawala, no? Our drawing suddenly vanished. Why? Because this layer, which contains the vine drawing, is only up until here. So we need to extend the exposure of our drawing up until frame 40 in a manner similar to the background layer. So for me to be able to do that, I am going to press right click and insert frame. So when you press enter, so there goes your animation. Now, it's okay lang naman na medyo tagos yung ano. So nakikita nyo, tagos yung background natin. Okay lang yan, no? Okay lang. It's okay that you can see the background right here because it's on a different layer. And after all, you're gonna color it eventually. And it's gonna cover that background right here. So, kunyari, pag kinulayan mo siya, ayun, matatakpan yung ano, background. Okay? Yan. Okay, so that's our animation right here. Okay, so that's the difference between the insert blank keyframe and the insert keyframe. And I have also slightly demonstrated the function of insert frame. Okay, so if we want to extend the exposure of these drawings right here, let's say these two keyframes right here, if you want to extend the exposure of this particular keyframe, we are going to right click and insert frame. right here, insert frame. So it actually extends the exposure of our drawing. So the shortcut of which is F5. Okay, so that's how it looks like. So now make sure that the background and the animation is uh, on equal length of layers. Okay, that the layers containing the vine and the background are equal, because right here what happens is that the background is going to disappear because our vine has been extensive, or rather has been extended. It has been extended beyond the boundaries or beyond the limits of the background layer. So for the background layer, we know for the background layer, we need to extend also its drawing. So by doing so, we're going to press right click and insert frame. So kailangan pantay sila lagi, no? So kailangan equal sila. Okay, so ganyan. Now there are other commands right here that you have to remember. It's called the clear keyframe and the remove frames. Okay, so ano ba yung mga yan? What are these commands? So for the remove frames, let's say right click, remove frames. So what it does is it reduces the exposure of the drawing. Right click, remove frames. Ayun, no? So it removes, or rather it reduces the exposure. But be aware that you are also, that since you're reducing the exposure of your drawings, you're also reducing the duration of that animation. At medyo hindi na siya pantay dun sa background, no? So adjust lang, F5 ka lang dyan, yan, ganyan. Okay? So yun, no? So what the command remove frames does is that it reduces the exposure of the drawing, because animation is all about exposure. Okay, animation, 2D animation is all about exposure. Drawings are being exposed rapidly, which creates an illusion of motion. So, nakikita nyo naman dito, puro drawing ng vines yan na iba-iba. No? Puro drawing lang yan. Hindi naman talaga gumagalaw yan. They're not moving. But we just created an illusion of movement. Okay, now there's another command which is clear keyframe. Okay, so let's just say that we're going to remove this frame right here. So tingnan natin, let's see what a clear keyframe does. So let's say right click, clear keyframe, the shortcut of which is Shift F6. So let's try. So what it does is it erases the keyframe. Let's try it again right here. Right click, clear keyframe. There you go. Now sometimes you accidentally put a blank keyframe right here. Yeah, right here. So what happens is that the vine disappears and then it reappears. See, it's blinking. So when that happens, what you need to do is right click and clear keyframe, and it's gonna go back to its normal appearance. And if you want to extend, or rather if you want to insert a blank keyframe, or rather a new drawing, you press F7, which is the shortcut of the insert blank keyframe. Use the onion skin to see the previous and the next drawing. By the way, the previous drawing is the green one, or the purple one is the previous drawing. The ghostly green drawing is the next drawing. As you can see, it is indicated right here on the timeline or on the onion skin. So I really hope I am making sense at sana ay nakakasunod kayo sa aking demonstration. So, para makasunod kayo sa aking demo, mabuting i-practice nyo siya. So, you need to practice frame by frame animation. You need to practice these commands right here. No? So, you can actually take a screenshot of this. All right? You can take a screenshot of that. So, for you to remember, and make sure that you have your notebooks beside you so you can write these notes. So you can write these notes, and you can actually pause this video for you to be able to screenshot this, okay? But I believe that you have to take down notes of this. You have to write them down on your notebook for you to remember them easily. All right? So this is how you create a frame by frame animation. All right? So let's say, for example, you want to extend further the first drawing right here. So you press F5 or the shortcut of the insert frame. And of course, be aware that you are also extending the duration of this animation right here, which might go beyond the the length of the background right here. So kailangan sa huli pantay-pantay sila. So medyo nagkakandabulol-bulol ako sa aking demonstration, pero sana ay nakakasunod pa rin kayo. All right? So that's how you create a frame-by-frame animation, a simple frame-by-frame animation in Adobe Animate. So probably in the next video, I'm going to demonstrate frame-by-frame animation with certain animation principles. Okay, so I'm gonna see you in the next video. Goodbye for now.